You know, when I first made my channel, I promised myself that I would not make a Nintendo video because of their YouTube policy, but god damn it, I've been waiting for this game for a long time now, a very long time. Alright, we are going to start with the obvious first, and that's the graphics, because my god are they breathtaking, and running at 60 FPS no less. I was constantly surprised and amazed by not only how diverse and stunning the areas looked, but at the stable performance throughout. And I think Nintendo should be immensely praised for that, not only because of how old the Switch's hardware is, but in hopes of also shifting the competition's obsession away from 4K and back to performance. Because I have to tell you, the last time I stopped and looked around at the scenery in a video game this much was when I played Uncharted 4. The only difference here is that Mario Odyssey runs at 60 FPS and not as graphically intensive, which is impressive. I mean, sure, there are a lot of low-res assets in the game, but I'm guessing that's there to allow the game to run at 60 FPS, and if that's the case, then I'm okay with it. No, I welcome it. After the graphics, which should be the first thing you should notice, comes the controls. And why am I listing the controls in the good section? Well, because there are functional characters and then there are characters that are a joy to play as. My jaw dropped when I looked at the action guide. Mario is a simple character. He was simple ever since his inception. And for the longest time, I thought that all Mario ever needed in a video game was his basic moveset. I mean, his original nickname was Jump Man because all he did was jump on enemies. Certainly throughout the games, Mario would learn a move or two or go on an adventure with a buddy. But that's nothing compared to the list of moves in Mario Odyssey. It's downright impressive the number of moves that the developers added for a simple character like Mario. That browsing through the action guide alone was enough to put a stupid smile on my face, and that's only the action guide. Controlling Mario is a whole different level of awesome. And that's not even me mentioning the enemy control mechanic thanks to Mario's new travel companion. In fact, most of this review could be me breaking down the hat throwing enemy control mechanic, but even though I put roughly 10 hours into the game and already beat it, I have not put in nearly the amount of time required for me to be able to talk about this mechanic in depth. This also applies to some elements of the controls. One of my favorite things to do in Super Mario 64 is the backflip, and while it's in the game, the timing is a little different, which causes me to mistime it, which is an issue on my end and not the game's fault. I'm sure I will adjust to it with due time. Next up are the worlds you're going to be using the controls in, and Mario Odyssey did something that I personally adore when it's in a video game, and that's having your actions affect the world. Kingdom you're in. Whenever Mario lands in a kingdom, it's in an altered state because of Bowser, and the game then gives you a story objective to complete, and once you do, the stage's state will change. That said, just like in Super Mario 64, you aren't forced to get the main power moon in this game, not stars, moon. You can take your time and explore and find almost whichever power moon you want. I say almost because that's to the best of my knowledge. But anyway, here's an example regarding my former statement. When you get to New Donk City, it's nighttime, and it's raining, and yes, that's that, Pauline. Hey Pauline. But after defeating a boss, it becomes the kingdom we saw in the trailers. Here's another good that I already mentioned but deserves to be repeated, and that's you can go after any power moon you want. Look, I love Mario Sunshine, but this was one of my biggest annoyances with that game, and I'm glad Mario Odyssey fixed that. Things now are more like Super Mario 64 in that aspect, even though I personally think that this is the only thing this game took from Mario 64, and that it's actually a lot more like Sunshine. From the story, the you having a travel companion that adds to your move list, and the overall somewhat linear completion path. I mean, look at the world map, it's a straight goddamn line. But anyways, just like Sunshine, this game has more than the normal Mario story. I mean, yes, Bowser kidnaps Peach again, but the story has more elements to it than that I won't spoil here. So yes, the story in my opinion is a plus here. I can't list the number of times the story made me giggle like I was 7 again, which yes, this game tugs at that nostalgia string pretty damn hard. If you're a longtime Mario fan, there is no way you won't have the same stupid smile I had while playing the game from start to finish. Which, speaking of the ending, I won't spoil anything here, but goddamn, personally, not only is it one of my personal favorite endings of any game, but the post-game content might be better than the game itself. And the last good I'll be mentioning here are the boss fights. Finally, we have some good boss fights in a Mario game. It's been a long time coming. That said, again, for spoiler reasons, I will keep quiet. Because trust me, there is one boss that I doubt anyone would see coming, because seriously, what the hell? Speaking of hell, oh boy, we are moving to the bad in a Nintendo game. So, with how I've been talking about the game so far, you would think that it wouldn't have any bad in it, but unfortunately there are some aspects of Mario Odyssey that I don't enjoy or downright dislike. And let's start with the big one. Now, I know that I mentioned the story as a positive, but there was one thing the story did to the gameplay that I did not like, and that it funneled the game down one overall path. I mean, sure, like once or twice in a blue moon, the game asked me which kingdom I wanted to go to first, but after you choose, you're still being funneled down the same one path. So while the game might be like Super Mario 64 in one sense, and that's once you're in a world you can go after whichever power moon you want, it's not like Mario 64 in the way where you get to choose more than one stage almost immediately. I mean, once you got just 3 stars in Super Mario 64, you got to choose between an ice level, an underwater level, a hilltop level, and a sliding course level. And that's one of my favorite things in a collectathon, the ability to play any stage in a diverse selection of stages. Like take Spyro for example. Upon completing the first stage and collecting 500 gems, you get to choose between this snow stage, a tribal stage, an underwater stage, and more. The same thing with Crash. This is important to me because I might not be in the mood for a snow stage. Now I know going back to a previous stage is an option, but I really don't find that stimulating at all, and I know what some of you will say, that the game is structured that way because of the story. Well, instead of having Mario chase Bowser throughout the entire story and just failing whenever he gets to him, which got old pretty quick, they could have allowed you to choose any of the stages, and then when you would get to that kingdom, the people of that kingdom would explain the damage that Bowser did to that area, and Mario would solve the problem and collect power moons before leaving, supposedly for the story. Moreover, this problem is further intensified by the fact that each group of power moons is locked to their respective kingdoms, and because of that, the developers could not lock the kingdoms like they did the stages in Super Mario 64 by asking the player to collect a predetermined number of power stars, moons, whatever you call them. I mean, yes, you need to collect a certain number of power moons to progress, but that's not the same as choosing from a whole bunch of stages. They could have implemented that, since power moons are clearly fuel according to the game. So yeah, to conclude this point, as a person who enjoys the ability to choose any of a diverse set of stages a collectathon usually offers, Super Mario Odyssey does not offer me that. It does eventually, but not fast enough. And when I was not in the mood for a specific stage, not only was I bored, but that made me put the game down a bit. That said, I do realize that there are people out there that will love each stage as they play it. Unfortunately, I like to have a choice. Now, in the game's defense, there were stages that when I got to them, I never wanted to leave. But on the other hand, we have my former point. And on to my last point, and that's the power moons. And my problem with them is simple. Most of the power moons I collected made no sense. You know that amazing feeling you usually get when you would get a power star or figure a puzzle out in Breath of the Wild or something like that? Well, that's missing from a lot of aspects in this game. Most of the power moons feel like just mindless busy work. I mean, sure, the story objective ones are fun, but the number of power moons they give you, which is 3, is not nearly enough for you to proceed to the next kingdom. And while there are non-story moons that are creative and fun, a lot of them unfortunately are not. There are like 999 power moons in this game, so they had to stuff them somewhere. And honestly, I would much rather have had 120 power moons that were well placed, had set pieces, or required either skill to get or a clever puzzle, instead of 999 where most of them are just there. Really? Every kingdom has a practically free power moon in the shop that requires the normal coins to get. Come on guys, make me work for it. Now that said, I do realize that both Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine had nonsensical busy work stars in the stages. Those 100 coin stars come to mind, but I find that the majority of them are not, and this is something that I seriously wish Super Mario Odyssey had, because as it stands, I beat the game and I feel like there's no real enjoyment or excitement to be had with collecting more power moons than I already have, because I'm pretty sure that they'll just be, yeah. So, with all that said and done, what do I think of Super Mario Odyssey? Well, to put it simply, it may not be everything I wanted in a Mario game. I do, however, think it's a step in the right direction. And I can safely say that this is a game that I will have an endless amount of fun with, and that Super Mario Odyssey is the best game I played on the Nintendo Switch so far. So with that being said, for those of you who are watching, wherever you may be in this world, thank you guys for watching, and stay alive until the next video.